Welcome, everybody, to the 20th episode of the Four Roads Out of Warba podcast. Hello. Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Today, we are talking about professional wrestling, the greatest sport on the planet. And today, I want to introduce you to the Four Horsemen themselves. Playing the role of the nature boy, Ric Flair, we've got Tippy Tater Alligator.
Woo!
How you doing, Tippy?
Doing good.
Good.
Happy
Anything going on?
Is trying to get out of Michigan and get back home in the next few weeks here, so yep.
Very cool.
Main focus.
Very cool. Playing the role of the enforcer, Arn Anderson, we've got Doodoo.
Howdy.
How's it going?
Things are good. How are you, more importantly?
Oh, well, you're skipping my introduction.
No. Just being polite. I'm doing well. Buddy of mine had a shoulder surgery, so I'm thankful I'm not him. And
Let's have a moment of silence.
Just had a good day at work. Yeah, just living the dream.
Very cool. Which one should Bob be?
I know which faction are you gonna do?
Well, no, you're remember the Four Horsemen.
Well, I know, but which group of them are you gonna do? Because there's a lot
He
of
could
them.
be the Matt.
Playing the role of the greatest horseman who ever lived, Paul Roma. We've got Bob.
I'm so beautiful. Pretty Paul Roma. Thank you.
I had no idea he was a horseman. I was hoping to God you didn't say Chris Benoit.
There goes my introduction.
Not even fast.
Paul Roma, thank you for that.
Oh, yeah.
He was half of the best tag team in WWF history, Powers of Pain.
No.
So,
Power and Glory.
Power and Glory, I'm sorry. Yeah, Power and Glory, yeah.
They did have the best finisher ever.
Powerplex, yep.
Yep. Great move.
Mm-hmm.
How's your week going there, Bob?
It's going well. Just starting to get stuff wrapped up for winter. I had a good visit up north, visiting Doodoo this last weekend. Saw you up there too. It was a good time. So everything's going well.
Very cool. And I am Bort, and I will be... Yes?
I just would like everybody to know that I went down a water slide through a tube and I didn't get stuck. I was proud of that.
Well, you did blow half your brains out of your head doing it, but...
Yeah. But it was worth it. Kids were liking it. So
Okay.
it was...
Yeah, and I am the last of the Four Horsemen this week, and I'll be playing Sid Vicious.
Yeah, I was gonna say Sid. You gotta do Sid.
Yep. Because I have half the brains that you think I have. So, yes, today we are talking about pro wrestling. Sort of just free form, talking about whatever we want, what entertains us, what we like, what we don't like. And we got a little bit of fun shenanigans to go in here too, and we'll just kind of see where it goes. So, Bob, we'll start with you while I pause my speaking so my son can talk to me. Do you have any thoughts about the professional wrestling?
So the really good memories when we were growing up. Me, Tippy, and Bort were really into it. Duda was to a point, but I think you did it more to humor us. But we had a lot of good times, a lot of memories, and we were super dorks. That's all our lives were for a chunk of the time. But yeah, that period between the late 80s, early 90s, to the 93, 94 were kind of really special times just for all the stuff that we would do together as kids.
I'll pretend that I heard any of that. And yeah, thank you for your lengthy synopsis on the life of Brutus Beefcake.
The Booty Man.
How about you, Dudu? What are your just some opening thoughts on your professional wrestling fandom?
Well, oh, what a rush! Classic. Mine's more so old stuff because I'm old, I guess. But Monday nights on the USA Network, Grandpa going out, turning that huge satellite dish he had, and then the Hanemanis would come over and we'd watch Monday Night Raw. On that, Grandma would make popcorn stuff like with all the the good old guys. And then some of the newer stuff I like, but it just there came a point in my life when I think it's probably when I was driving over the road and I didn't watch TV, so I lost it. But it's cool. I like the old stuff, definitely.
Very cool. How about you, Mr. Alligator?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what Bob said. For us growing up, between that time, like the late 80s, even into like the late 90s, probably. I mean, it pretty much enveloped a good portion of our lives. Really, it did everything from, just watching it on Saturday mornings, watch on Monday nights. You guys would get every single pay-per-view, so you'd always have it taped, so I could always see it. And guys are so lucky. And to the backyard wrestling, and even to our wrestling newsletter that we had going on for a while. I mean, yeah, we were super dorks.
You guys had a newsletter?
Yes,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
called. It was called A Wrestling Newsletter after Canada's A.
A, yeah.
Yep. I still have the first 10 issues of it in my laundry room printed out.
Nice.
And I think those two also had ones. Because we all did fantasy wrestling stuff too, which was really cool. We had our own notebooks that we wrote stuff in. And I think you guys had newsletters for yours. I didn't have one for mine.
Yeah, we did. Oh, that just takes the dorkiness to a different level right there.
Oh, yeah. I still have mine. I know exactly where my SWF, the Super Wrestling Federation, I know exactly where my notebooks are in my right in my bedroom right here.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So you know where those notebooks are, but you misplaced your character sheet for D&D how many times?
Well, those are important.
Oh. All right.
Well, I think it was last fall, we were looking through one of Bob's notebooks and we found a card for a pay-per-view show out, but it was never completed. So me and him finished off that card as the last show of all time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you sent that to me. I had a good chuckle at that.
I think we ended up killing you. I think you got thrown off the building, Tippy.
Just like the giant was thrown off Cobo Hall.
I just listened to 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff. I just listened to his podcast about Halloween Havoc 95. Terrible. The monster
That
truck
show was awesome.
so terrible.
I love that show so much because not so much the monster truck stuff, but that was when Ric Flair was feuding with Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman, and he's like, I need help. These two guys got my number. I need help. I need the one guy who can help me, Sting. And everybody's still saying, Sting, don't team with Ric Flair. He's going to turn on you. They're like, Sting, don't do it. He'll turn on you. It's like, no, he won't turn on me. Sting tags Flair in the match. He goes off the ropes and punches Sting in the face.
Yep, I remember that. That's also where they had the Yeti.
Yes.
I was just about to ask that.
Mm-hmm. So
They had what?
the
Yeti.
Yeti. He was the guy who was like 7'7". John Reese, I think, or something was his name.
Ron Reese.
Ron Reese. Yeah, and he was like 7'7". Hulk Hogan was fighting the Giant, who was like 7 feet tall. And during their match, the Giant put Hulk Hogan in a bear hug, and then the Yeti was a guy 7'7", wrapped up in toilet paper like a mummy. He walked down to the ring like this, and then he gave Hogan a bear hug behind. And they started going like that, so it looked like they were both just throttling Hulk. There's no easy way to say it.
They made the Hulkster humble that night.
Yeah. That was the time before Hogan went to the NWO. His WCW time, man, he was so dorky. It was just that classic cartoon, that they're trying to milk the last little bit of the WWF stuff. And yeah, that 94 to early 96 was awful in WCW. We didn't watch much WCW growing up. I mean, we saw like a handful of shows, but like the early 90s, we were strictly WWF, right?
Yeah.
I remember watching a lot of WCW once we got TBS, because they'd always had that Saturday morning syndicated show. That's at like Universal Studios or whatever, where can't be more than 50 people in the arena there, It was just
The spinning ring.
Yeah, the spinning ring.
And then remember watching a WCW Saturday Night a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I started with WCW in the 96 a lot more. Or 95, 96, and then kind of favored them until they got really bad. But yeah.
I think I started watching them when Hogan went over.
Mhm.
And then that's slowly when Nitro came, because me and Bort went to the first WCW Nitro at the Mall of America. So that was kind of cool.
It was very cool.
Mm-hmm. I was stuck on the elevator. I thought I was such a smart guy. I was stood behind the elevator so I could see right through the glass, right to the ring, except the elevator would come and stop. So I saw like half the show.
And all the people that were in the elevator being even smarter than you.
Yeah, I know, because they were actually riding it, just watching it the whole time.
Yeah, on the hard camera, too.
Yep.
So you could have been on TV the whole night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I started wrestling in 1990, and I kind of fell out of it a little bit, in the mid 2000s. Got back into it again through watching New Japan Pro Wrestling in 2013, and then really watched that pretty much exclusively until AEW came around in 2019, and I've been watching that pretty exclusively. WWE pretty much drives me insane, so I haven't watched that very much in the past few years. So
Yeah, I still kind of pay attention to it all, like WrestleView.com. I think it's a website I go to. I'll just go to that for like results of shows and stuff. I really don't watch the shows, but I just kind of keep tabs and stuff like that. But that's about the extent of it.
very cool. So, Dudu, I've got a lot of or not a lot of shenanigans planned, but I thought it would be fun for us to recite a wrestling promo for comedic purposes tonight. And I was wondering if you would want to kick off our wrestling promo recitals.
Well, so kind of you to ask. I happen to have a excerpt from The Ultimate Warrior. Before I can do this, can I ask a quick question?
Mhm.
I remember like little kid, like 8, 9, so what would that be? Like early 80s? When mom was at her boyfriend's every night for supper, he would pull the TV in and wrestling would be on. It'd be like the Von Erichs. What was that, AWA or what was that?
Was
World class championship.
they typically wrestled out of World Class Championship Wrestling, but they would be around the AWA every now and then, especially Kerry Von Erich. He was the champ in the AWA for a while.
Okay.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Territories would swap their
Yeah,
big names sometimes.
I wasn't. Yeah, I guess I'm not sure when World Class was on here in Minnesota, Wisconsin, but
Okay. No, I
yeah,
just,
that's what I think it was.
and then, yeah, it was like the Von Erichs and would the Four Horsemen have been there? With Flair and all
So
that?
let me think here. Well, yeah, the NWA often had people go there too. I know Kerry had a match with Ric Flair on a Christmas, I think it was Christmas night back in 1983. That
Okay.
was pretty huge. So
Okay.
yeah,
All
they
right.
could have definitely overlapped.
Cool. All right. So in this,
this promo from the Ultimate Warrior is promoting the match against Hulk Hogan leading into WrestleMania 6.
why Hulk Hogan? Can you not communicate with me, Hulk Hogan? Talk to me, Hulk Hogan, as you were talking to the God you speak of, Hulk Hogan. There is nothing powering that I live for, Hulk Hogan. I need not the normals to protect me from what I find most comforting, the challenge of pain and the smell of combat, Hulk Hogan. I have, Hulk Hogan, injected you with minimum dosage of poison from the power of the Ultimate Warrior. But the antibodies from Hulkamania continue to refuse what the poison can do. They turn it away, Hulk Hogan. They turn the poison away, for they feel the fear of the evil. Hulk Hogan, I am the representation of all you fear. I, Hulk Hogan, sorry, these words are really small. I, Hulk Hogan, want you to be the warrior you say you are, for I can, as the Ultimate Warrior, expect no less, give no less to the Warriors. Rock with me, Hulk Hogan, to the edge. Hulk Hogan. Look into nothing. Look beyond your fears as you take that step, Hulk Hogan, and make the sacrifice so that the power of the Ultimate Warrior shall live. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
Absolutely
that was awesome.
fantastic.
That was awesome.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I was reading it earlier, and the antibodies of Hulkamania. That's some pretty good stuff there. I like that.
The Warrior had some good promos, like entertaining promos. They didn't make any sense, but
No.
What, you didn't make sense of that?
Oh yeah.
That was one of his more sensical ones, but
That was the first ever WWF show I ever saw, was WrestleMania 6.
You remember when you two, when you were little, you used to come over to Ma's place and we'd get WrestleManias and
Yeah.
Christmas lights and
Remember we watched Royal Rumble 91 over at your apartment?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that one.
Yep.
That was really fun.
Yeah, it was.
I always remember all the trips to the video stores that we would make.
Oh,
You knew where every single wrestling tape was in the Grand Rapids area.
yes. I just like now with because another cool thing we did, we listened to the wrestling themes, but we didn't have YouTube back then, so we had to download them from these sites. It would take about 3-4 hours to download like a 5-second clip with crowd noise in the background, and I just don't know what we would have done if we had YouTube or the WWE Network now. I mean, if we were like in our peak wrestling freakisms, and then all of a sudden, here's WWE Network, what would we have done? Our minds wouldn't even, I don't think, been able to comprehend that because it's so much of what we would have loved back then.
Yeah, I think our little brains would have exploded. It's pretty funny.
No, we did have to get creative. Pretty sure you did this too, but we'd use I'd use like a dual cassette player, and then one of those CD to cassette adapters. But that in one of the players, and then the recording, you have a blank tape, and you'd have the little jack, hooked into the computer speakers, and that's how you'd, basically record your audio.
I remember my mom had a 1995 Acer Aspire computer, and we.
I think we did too. Well, I know our first computer was a 95 Acer.
Okay, and we completely filled the hard drive up with wrestling theme songs because we didn't know anything about.
Because that wouldn't take long.
Oh,
Yeah, I believe it was. Man, oh man!
I think
I
ours
think it
had
was
a
like I think it was maybe a gigabyte on that computer.
Oh, I remember it very well. I remember we had a 4 gigabyte hard drive.
Yep, and we completely filled it up with wrestling themes. It was amazing.
well, and what stuck back then is you had the dial-up, and it took so long. So you download a theme, and you'd be about 5 hours into it, and then somebody'd call, and you'd lose the whole thing. You're like, no, as your whole download thing's gone, and then you got.
I wanted to listen to Hacksaw Jim Duggan's entrance theme.
Either that or you're downloading something and people can't get through because you're using dial-up. And then you get done and everything and you're all happy of what you made, and you get like 4 phone calls right in a row wondering if you're like dead on the floor or something because we can't get through to you.
Doing great. Just listen to the Keen's theme.
These young kids nowadays have no idea the struggles.
Mhm.
Well, I remember before internet, but
Well, that's the thing is we're kind of, we have some age difference with us, but we're all kind of that last generation that knows what it's like before the internet. Because now everybody born now, the internet's just always been there.
yeah.
So weird. What was your guys? What was your guys? Okay. What was your guys' favorite wrestling match that you've ever watched? Or like that one that you can just keep back going and watching and just love it?
Modern day, it would be any of the Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada matches from Japan. Those were amazing.
I watched the first one of those. I'm slowly working through the 4 of them. So.
Okay.
The first one's the worst one out of them, I think.
I really liked that one.
Okay.
Yeah, but all 4 of them are really, really good. Old school matches, pretty much anything with Bret Hart is just great for me. He's got so many good ones that I go to, but
What about
newest
you,
kick
Timmy?
I've been on is 989 Lex Luger. Fantastic.
Yeah.
He's so good.
The Chamber of Horrors match from Halloween I think it's 91.
Yep.
Just,
Such a good match. At the end of it, Abdullah Butch. Well, Cactus Jack was gonna flip the switch, but like the switch already was flipped or something like that.
is
Or,
there
like,
up on the stage? He doesn't know what to do. He's just kind of hanging out.
and then Abdullah Butch is just kind of doing like that in the thing. Yeah, that was a weird one. That was a unique one.
Yep. And then you had the the ghoul orderlies walking down with the stretcher. That,
Mhm.
like, really didn't serve any purpose.
So why don't you explain the Chamber of Horrors to Dudu? Because he needs to experience that.
Wasn't it like, I'm not sure how many people were in the match. It was like a 4-on-4 free-for-all style match with a larger than normal cage for the time being. I mean, it was, probably probably the biggest cage in a major wrestling promotion ever constructed at that point.
It was big.
Well, I don't, maybe besides like the War Games, but I mean, that was just kind of like a level cage. But I mean, it would be like almost like a Hell in a Cell, where it's like it goes out to the guardrails so you can move around on the outside, and then they have all these instruments of torture in there, like a chainsaw with no chain on it, and then like they had these coffins in there where jobbers would jump out and try to get you, and then eventually at some point they lower the electric chair in through the ceiling, and the main objective was to get somebody in the electric chair and throw the switch.
Nice.
It was
Nearly killed Rick Steiner too, I believe.
Yeah. It almost like dropped on him, didn't it?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. I think we should go ahead back to bad wrestling promos for comedic purposes. I'll go second.
All right.
This one needs no introduction. So I'll just cut into the promo. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay. So you're the man who rules the world? They call me the Shock Master. You've ruled the world long enough, Sid Vicious. Get ready. Come on. You want a piece of me? You want a piece of me? Come and get me. Come after me, Sid. I'm ready. Along with Davy Boy, Sting, and Dusty Rhodes, we'll see you at the Brawl Ball at the War Games. Until then, ah ha 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 ha. Ah ha 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 ha.
Nice.
Oh man. Yeah, I didn't know anything about the Shockmaster until probably you sent me a video, I think, Bort, maybe 10, 15 years ago. And oh, I laughed. I'd never seen anything that funny.
I remember watching that at your guys' place in Cottage Grove, like back in the 90s.
Huh.
Oh, I don't remember that. I mean, maybe I saw it before, but
I wonder how we'd have seen that in the pre-YouTube days.
Yep.
oh, but yeah, doo-doo.
Maybe
So
it was just like a flash clip or something. It wasn't like the whole thing, but it was the Shockmaster going through the wall and falling on his face,
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, that's funny. You got Sid in the background laughing.
And Davy Boy, what he's
One was ours.
fucking ass.
Yeah, that was funny.
Were you familiar with that clip?
No, but I'm watching some stuff on YouTube.
So the Shockmaster was played by Fred Ottman. You'll remember him as Tugboat or
Oh
Typhoon.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's who the Shockmaster is, and he was supposed to come through a wall, but before the show they put like a reinforcement board up there and didn't tell him about it. And so he went right over when he went through the wall because of that board
Really?
on his face.
Oh, that was funny.
Yeah.
Then they
He's got
replaced
like
him as a construction worker.
he's got
Stormtrooper
like
helmet?
a stormtrooper helmet on.
Yep.
Yep. Oh man.
Wow.
Gets his big break in WCW, and oh, it's gonna be fantastic. Falls right in his face. And wasn't Ole Anderson the one doing his voice?
Yeah. Yeah, it was Ole Anderson. I don't think you could see it. And that was for the pause. I don't think they timed it right, so Ole didn't know that he was standing there, and just a big mess.
Oh, how would you think that would be a good idea? Some of the ideas they had.
I've never actually watched that War Games before. I should watch it to see what they did with them after that. I know he became a construction worker later in that year, but
With the same name. They still
Yeah.
call him the Master, but he's packaged as a construction worker. No sense.
They should have had the Shockmaster and John Tenta team up together. Remember John Tenta came? I'm a man. I am not a fish. I am a man, John Tenta. And then he did absolutely nothing.
Yep. Oh gosh, I remember the 95 War Games. They put the Hogan, Sting, Luger, and Savage against the Dungeon of Doom. And the Dungeon of Doom was represented by Kamala, Brutus Beefcake, Meng, and the Shark, John Tenta. And so which was Earthquake, Andrew, if you're not familiar.
Yeah.
And the first two guys in War Games, they got to wrestle for 20 minutes. And if you look at the Dungeon of Doom side, you don't really have a guy that can go 20 minutes. So out of them, they decided that the 400-pound John Tenta was the best choice, and honestly, he was.
Yeah.
But in that first 5-minute segment against Sting, early on in the segment, Sting does like a jump from one ring over both sets of the ropes onto the Shark on the other side, and the crowd goes crazy. Later on in that same 5-minute period, Shark throws Sting into the other ring, and he eyes up those ropes. He goes up the one, tries to launch himself over the both of them, and he gets stuck on both ropes, straddling the rings.
Was that on purpose, or did he?
Oh yeah, it was on purpose by fall, but it was so funny.
Wasn't that the match where they also had Zeus? Didn't they bring Zeus back?
No, that was for what was it called? It was at Uncensored that next year. The Alliance and Hulkamania in the, what was it called? The Quadruple Cage.
It was Zeus, and then they brought the big muscular guy. He was a big muscular bald white guy that they called the Final Solution. And then they realized, sounds kind of Hitlerish. Maybe we shouldn't do that. So then that guy disappeared pretty quick.
What was it called? The Doomsday Cage match.
Okay.
Yes, that was something else. They didn't even know how to end the match.
What ended up happening?
Well, it was Hogan and Savage against Ric Flair, the world champion Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Meng the Barbarian, Lex Luger, the Taskmaster, Z Gangster, Zeus, and the Ultimate Solution. And so they fought down through all of these cages, and finally they got to the very bottom and just left the cage. And then the referee's like, you got to pin somebody. So Savage ran back in the ring and pinned Ric Flair, of all people.
They just wanted to get it over with at that point.
Yeah. It was not good.
Yeah, that was during that cartoon phase of WCW.
Yep. I think that was Hogan's last show before he left, before he came back for the NWO. Yep. Well, let me see here. Which one do I want to save for last? Do your... Oh, yes, you do.
I just on Google here looking at old wrestlers, and Nikolai Volkov. I found him. He was always fun to watch.
I always enjoyed when he did the Russian national anthem.
Mm-hmm.
How people booed him. It's awesome. Tippy, you want to go ahead with your old wrestling promo for comedic purposes?
Sure. Put this up here so I can read that far away. I'm just gonna have to do this. Okay. Okay, I will be doing Scott Steiner. I'm not sure when this promo took place. Do you know?
This was from TNA in, I believe, 2008.
Okay, so I'd been checked out at a long time by that point, but I have heard of this. And I may have actually seen it, but I've heard it referenced to a lot.
Yes.
Okay. There we go. Try to follow. You know, they say all men are created equal, but you look at me and you look at Samoa Joe, and you can tell that statement is not true. See, normally, if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal. So you got 25% at best to beat me. Then you have Kurt Angle into the mix. Your chances of winning drastically go down. You see, the 3-way at Sacrifice, you got a 33 1/3% chance of winning. But I got a 66 2/3 chance of winning because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me, and he's not even going to try. So, Samoa Joe, you take your 33 1/3 chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 1/3% chance of winning at Sacrifice. But then you take my 75% chance of winning. If it goes one-on-one, then add the 66 2/3% chance. I got 141 2/3% chance of winning at Sacrifice. See, Joe, the numbers don't lie. And this spells disaster for you at Sacrifice. See? But I'm going to break it down honest for you ladies. Would you rather be with me? Or would you rather be with Joe?
Oh, I love that promo.
That is the best.
That's such a good promo. Yeah, if you
I
haven't
remember
seen
you
it,
sent me a video of that, Jace. That was hilarious.
Yes, it's...
Well, and it was pretty impressive, actually, that you remembered the numbers.
Apparently, I heard they had to do reshoots on that numerous times because the people who were in the shot with him couldn't stop cracking up.
I don't blame them.
Oh,
That's a very original promo there.
Yeah.
Me and Bort were just talking about this maybe 6 months ago. Scott Steiner was somebody that I didn't really appreciate, and now going back and watching some stuff on YouTube, man, he was good. Just on his promos, and he was a character, especially when he came Big Papa Pump. I never gave him the time of day back then, and I wish I would have.
Yeah.
What'd you send me?
What'd you send me? What'd you send me?
Yeah, I mean, TNA did this wacky stuff. I remember one time he was in a match with Jeff Jarrett, and it was like a hardcore match. And in the middle of the match, he dumped out a garbage can and found a pogo stick. And he picks up this pogo stick and was going to hit Jeff Jarrett with it, but instead he just stopped and he puts the pogo stick on the ground and starts hopping on the pogo stick. And then, of course, he gets clotheslined by Jeff Jarrett while pogoing.
And it supported his weight?
Yes, it did.
Oh. Good for the pogo stick.
Yeah. Hey, Colby or Tippy, did you ever do ECW stuff? Were you into that?
Oh yeah, like in like 97 to like 99 by the time I checked out, you know.
Okay. And you were bored, right?
Yeah, I followed it.
Yep.
Oh, we would get the pay-per-views, and I would follow the results on the internet. We didn't have the TV show here in the cities at all, so
Yeah,
we kind of just had to follow along.
I actually still have my ECW videotapes that you dubbed for me, Bort.
Nice.
Like,
Yep, I just found online too.
Was it
ECW, that was Bischoff, right?
That was the one Paul Heyman did, the hardcore wrestling.
That's what
With
you
the
took me and my
Sandman.
friends
You
to.
remember we went to a couple shows together with the Sandman, and
Oh, the Sandman. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. It makes sense now.
Yep. Yeah, we went to those shows with you. Where were those at? Roy Wilkins?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
No, those were fun. Those are crazy.
What was that
shows.
one? What was that? What was that one we went to with your buddy? I don't know if I can say his name or not, but they were chanting. Somebody missed a move. Somebody missed a move, and they were chanting, "You effed up, you effed up." And I looked over, and you two were saying it, you know. And I'm like, I looked at your buddy, and I go, "Did you teach him this crap?" And I had him going. I really did. He goes, no.
Yeah,
That was in my pre-Christian days.
Yeah. So those were good shows, and then yeah, me, Bort, and Tip, you were at that one, the one at the St. Paul Civic Center with the main event was Hart versus Undertaker.
Yep.
Yeah, you were there, right?
Was that October 4th, 1997?
Yes.
October, last match before he died. Yep.
Yes, one of the funnest wrestling shows I've ever been to.
Mm-hmm. Didn't Bret Hart actually look at you when you had your sign?
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the proudest moments of my life.
We met Dude Love at the concession stand. He was buying popcorn for his match.
Yeah, I know. We went over there and I slapped his arm where he had that big scar. I thought it was so cool. I slapped his arm.
Hey, how's it going? You know?
He was a big dude.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah, we were 13.
I mean,
but...
we were like, you were like 12 and me and Bort were 14.
Mm-hmm.
Bob, you're a friend who lived in Cottage Grove. I think he moved down to Texas, but I believe he was at the show too.
Oh, Matt Renke? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I was trying to avoid saying names. I think he mentioned to me once when we were at his place that he said that he was on the other side of the arena by the entrance, and he snapped a picture of Brian Pillman right as he was just about to go out of the arena, or leave the area, and he thinks that it's the last photo of Brian Pillman ever taken.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yep.
What was the first show that we went? Wasn't the first one like in 1990?
Yeah, Jim took us to a show. It was in, I think, November of 90, I believe, or December. Hulk Hogan and Earthquake headlined. Big Boss Man wrestled Bobby Heenan, I believe, at the show as well.
Yeah, I don't remember much of that, but
nope.
Yeah, we went to like 3 or 4 because I know there's that one. There was main event was Sid versus The Undertaker in a coffin match or casket match. That was one we went to, and then it was wasn't it Hogan and Piper against Flair and somebody else too?
Was it Flair and Undertaker or Flair and Sid? I think was the other one we went to.
And that was the last one I think we went to.
Yep.
In that era, anyways.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was the last one I went to till the Nitro, and then the one in 9, and then yeah. Okay, yes, doo-doo.
One of the cool storylines I always thought and remembered was when they were introducing Undertaker's brother. That whole storyline and the lead up to that was cool to watch. And then when
That
you
was
actually seen him, through all the little teaser trailers and stuff they had, and then you actually got to see him step out, Kane, and like, whoa.
that was pretty cool.
Mhm.
Oh, it's weird. It's one of those gimmicks that usually they create those and they last maybe 2 months. They bring back for one purpose and then it's done. And man, he lasted 20 some years doing that gimmick.
Exactly. Yeah, I was about to say that. I mean, like that's what I mean. It seems crazy on the surface, but well, I mean, a lot of that stuff you got to take with a grain of salt. After you see so many failed gimmicks. But yeah, Kane really stuck like glue. I mean, especially like you're pairing with the Undertaker straight off the bat. They can just feed off each other so well. And he got a really good start, and then just kept going.
Well, they kind of owed him because he was Isaac Yankem and then the fake Diesel. So it's like they got to give him throw him a bone somehow.
Well, it was really smart too. I mean, they did it. You knew he was going to lose, and he lost a couple matches, but then he went and just out of nowhere beat Austin for the title.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had this great feud over the summer, where it was Austin and Taker against Kane and Mankind, and then Kane and Undertaker got together then later that year, and they kept doing cool things with him, and that's how he kind of got that staying power, was just they kept with him, when they kind of gave up on all those other big dudes Taker would beat.
Yeah.
Yep. And Kane can also work at the same time too, for a big guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That always
That
helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, but did he ever go down a tube slide at a water park?
No, he's not
I
that
don't
tough.
know.
He's not that tough.
Might have to log on to Glenn Jacobs' social media and ask him.
He's the mayor now of like some place in where Tennessee.
Knox
Kane
County,
did?
Tennessee.
Really?
Yep.
Glenn Jacob, he doesn't wear his cane stuff, but
I would. Maybe he'll run for president. I'd vote for him.
sure, I'll vote for Kane.
Imagine Kane running for president with Undertaker as his running mate.
Oh, that's a country I would be proud to live in.
Well, I know both of them are pretty hardcore Republicans, so I know that they could. So yeah. So Bob, before it gets too dark in your car, you want to do your promo?
I
For
would
comedic
love.
purposes?
Here, I can turn some light on. I think here. Oh, whatever. All right, so my promo is Hulk Hogan when he was going to face Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 4 for their rematch. All right, right here.
And by the way, this WrestleMania was at Trump Plaza in Atlantic City, New Jersey, hosted by Donald Trump.
Oh yeah, that's important.
That's very important.
All right. Yes. But you look into their eyes, man, and you've seen the fear in all those little Hulksters. They realize that when I get Andre the Giant cinched up in the launch position, when I slam him through Trump Plaza, brother, from New York down to Tampa, Florida, the fault line is going to break off. And as Andre the Giant falls into the ocean, as my next two opponents fall to the ocean floor and I pin them, so will Donald Trump and all the other Hulkamaniacs. But as Donald Trump hangs onto the top of Trump Plaza with his family under his arm, as they sink to the bottom of the sea. Thank God Donald Trump's a Hulkamaniac. He'll know enough to let go of his materialistic possessions. Hang on to the wife and kids. Dog paddle with his life all the way to safety. But Donald, if something happens, brother, if you run out of gas and all those little Hulkamaniacs, just hang on to the largest back in the world and I'll dog paddle us. Backstroke all of us to safety.
Nice.
Excellent.
Oh, I forgot about that preview until you sent that to me earlier and I watched it and that's fun. He just got so lost when he was talking. He had no idea where he was going.
A lot of coke. That's
Well, it's
what I
like
was saying.
halfway through it, I'm sure he's like, oh, I got to mention Donald Trump somehow. How am I going to get him in here?
I'd be remiss to not mention this story. Back in the day, the AWA used to come up to Grand Rapids every now and then, and my dad, after the show one night, my dad went to the what was it, the hotel in town that everybody went to. There was a bar in there.
The Rainbow?
Rainbow, yep, the Rainbow Bar, and he was drinking in there, and all the wrestlers were drinking as well, and he saw Mean Gene Okerlund in there.
Cool.
And so Dad wanted to get Mean Gene's autograph, and he didn't have a paper or anything, but Dad was wearing a white T-shirt, and he goes over to Mean Gene and gets his autograph, and Mean Gene signs "Best wishes, Mean Gene" on my dad's T-shirt. And Dad came home that night and took his clothes off, went to bed, woke up in the morning, and Mom had done laundry.
Oh. Oh. That's heartbreaking. I could feel it right here.
I remember your dad talked about Mean Gene one time, and he's like, yeah, I met Mean Gene one time. He's about this high and he has a filthy mouth.
That is correct from all the stories I've heard.
Have you seen those bloopers from like the old 80s when he's doing all those interviews and the bloopers during that?
Oh yeah.
Man, some stuff he says just horrific.
Really? I gotta watch him now on YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep. Type in Mean Gene bloopers, you'll find them.
Okay.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about like favorite matches and stuff. It goes back to WrestleMania 6. That Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior match, I still think is like the best main event ever in WrestleMania history. It's like they were both like the biggest characters that they could have made at the point, and they having the faces go together, and I just love that main event. I don't know why it doesn't get as much love, I don't think, for some reason. Maybe it's just because that's the first one we really watched. I don't know.
It's really symbolic in a lot of ways because it's like the culmination of the 80s right there, I mean that was like the peak climax at that point, because after that it did start to go downhill a little bit,
A lot.
a lot, yeah, until we get to like 1996, and then it got reinvigorated with the Monday Night Wars and stuff like that, but yeah, it was.
I always got a kick out of Roddy Piper too. He was fun to watch. But talking about all these wrestling matches, we had some pretty good ones in your dad's kitchen.
Yes.
But it usually ended up where I'd choke slam somebody'd start crying, your dad would start hollering. and that was the end of them.
That was every wrestling match in the house.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, you guys want to tell the story of the torture rack?
Oh, so Tippy and Bort were staying with us, or Tippy was staying with me and Bort at my dad's place over the summer. I think I was maybe 12 or something. And I decided that it'd be a good idea to pick Tippy up in a torture rack. So I picked him up and I put him down, and he dislocated my neck, and my neck was stuck sideways like this for probably 2 days.
I totally forgot about that.
We went golfing and everything that night. And my neck was stuck sideways. Yeah.
Bob golfed his best round of the summer too.
Mm-hmm.
What'd your dad say?
He was whatever. Boys will be boys.
Yeah.
Brought me to his
He doesn't
chiropractor.
need to go to the hospital.
Yeah. But obviously didn't care. He didn't think I was hurt enough to still bring us golfing, so. And we probably rented a wrestling movie that night and watched some wrestling thing, and
Mm-hmm.
I believe that was right around the time we had first watched the UFC. We might have rented a UFC tape.
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
'Cause
Yeah, 'cause
that
they
was
only
my
like-
dad's first exposure to UFC too, and he's still watching it to this day.
Yeah, the first time I'd seen UFC, we rented a video at the Grand Rapids video store there a couple blocks
Mhm.
away. And I don't know if it was the one with Dan Severn or Ken Shamrock on the cover, but at that point they were up to like UFC 3 or something.
Yeah.
So it was pretty early.
Mm-hmm. That's when they did the real UFC, where it was like, all right, you're a sumo wrestler, you're a karate guy, go fight. And they didn't actually have like cross training pretty much. They were just grabbing them from dojos, from gyms, and said, all right, go fight.
It was like in the days where Tank Abbott was a thing.
Mm-hmm. Before he was like dancing on WCW or whatever he was doing.
I like the old UFC. That was fun.
That was Butterbean?
He's done a few mixed martial arts fights.
He was in Pride over in Japan. He fought a few of them. I still remember when Butterbean was on WrestleMania 15 and almost decapitated Bart Gunn.
Did you ever see that one, did you? The WWF did a tournament in 1998 where they put all the tough guys in a tournament, and they literally did shoot fights on Raw every week.
Really?
And the goal was to set up Dr. Death Steve Williams as a contender for Steve Austin for the title. But what happened is basically Bart Gunn, who was just a tag team wrestler, was just a legit tough guy, a hard hitter, and he went and knocked him out in that fight.
Oh, really?
And then he goes,
Tear his ACL or something like that. Something in his legs. Steve Williams suffered a career-ending injury in that.
But then Bart Gunn ended up winning that tournament, and they didn't know what to do with Bart Gunn. He was just a tag team wrestler. So then at that WrestleMania, like 8 months later, they put him into a shoot fight against Butterbean. And Butterbean knocked him out really horrifically.
Yep, and that was the end of his career.
Mm-hmm.
You got to watch the darker side of the ring.
On the Brawl, wasn't it?
Brawl for All.
Yeah,
Okay.
darker side of the ring episode of Brawl for All. It documents it pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or just listen to Jim Cornette talk about it.
Oh.
He puts it most bluntly.
Oh, I like listening to Jim Cornette. Man, he's funny. Just says his
I do
off-the-wall
too.
stuff.
Yeah.
I love that they put Carl Ouellette into that tournament from the Quebecers.
Oh,
He legit had one eye. He can't see out of his right eye, and he was in a shoot fight.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah. You got boxing gloves on and no depth perception. What can go wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good fun. Good fun.
But yeah, wrestling now, it's just, I don't know if it's just because we're older or what, but it just doesn't have the magic that it had back in the day. Just like a lot of stuff, I guess. So, I mean, everybody, I think, has their own things they're special to or feel a little bit more close to from what they grew up with. And yeah, that's why I'm so.
There's no, how do I say this? There's no little people anymore wrestling. You know, and they tried to do a lot of stuff back there for I don't know if it was for ratings or what, but back then they tried to do a lot of weird stuff.
Well, just now it seems like it's about the wrestling, which I get, but there's no characters really. It's just, all right, John Smith against Eric Johnson. And it's no, Bastion Booger against Kamala. No, that's the kind of stuff that was fun. The horrible characters.
You want to watch Bastion Booger against Kamala?
I'd watch that. That stuff's more entertaining to me than some of the newer stuff because of the characters and how terrible it was. Bastion Booger shouldn't win any fight, but he would win fights against jobbers, and that was fun. How they built him to be this unstoppable force when he was just a big fat guy who ate chicken and sat on people in the wrestling ring.
Bastion Booger did wrestle Kamala.
Wow. Who won that?
Yep. I don't know. I'm seeing it on the YouTube right now.
I just smell a double count out.
Remember, I saw Rick Martel wrestle Bastion Booger once, and he was scared to touch him because he didn't want to smell.
I liked Rick Martel with his can of arrogance.
Yeah, then our stepdad would call himself Jim the Model.
Yep, Jim the Model Spicer. Oh, I keep saying names.
I wanted to bring up something. Something I've always wondered. When did the jobber go the way of the dinosaur? Like the jobbers that we would, we're used to watching like on Saturday morning wrestling challenge. It would always be there'd be like just all squash matches pretty much to promote everybody for like their bigger shows like Superstars or Prime Time or whatever, Like when do you think the age of the jobber, the like the nameless, faceless guy in the mismatching tights, just a minute and a half, yeah.
Sort of like when the Monday Night Wars really got going.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the syndicated shows stopped mattering as much. I would say that was kind of the end of it there.
Okay.
Oh, some of the wrestlers would beat those guys up too. Some of them, oh, they just slaughter them.
But they probably still existed on like live, like house shows, that weren't taped.
It does a lot of those type of matches on their dark elevation shows that are on YouTube.
If you're bringing in someone from like a developmental company or something, if they're like WWE's developmental company, I think they use Smoky Mountain while in the early mid 90s there, and then Ohio Valley Wrestling was another one that I'm aware of anyways.
Yep. Yes.
I'm gonna go cry now. I'm looking on Bastion Booger's Wikipedia page. He was actually married. What the heck is the matter with me?
Maybe wear Bastion Booger's outfit, then you'll get some ladies.
There you go. I should have did that in the pool the other night.
Oh, wow, that'd been great. Down the water slide.
Yeah. It said that one of his other names, I like this name a lot. Norman the Lunatic.
Well, I've heard of that. Yeah.
That sounds great.
And see, that was fun about wrestling back then. They don't have Norman the Lunatic around anymore. They don't have that stuff, it seems like.
Bam Bam Bigelow. Good stuff.
How many wrestlers have we mentioned on this podcast today that are alive?
Oh, dude, you
Not
just
many.
did, didn't you?
No, the mid-50s seems to be in a lot of them keel over. So if you get past that, it's pretty good. At the latest, it seems like, mid-50s is like a old age for these wrestlers, but a lot of them 30s and 40s are dying.
What was that one that was supposed to be a prison guard in Georgia?
Nails.
No.
Nails.
Oh, Big
Well,
Boss.
Big Boss Man was
Big
a prisoner.
Boss Man.
Oh, okay.
Nails was a prisoner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought that's what you were referring to.
No.
Well, there's also a
92 feud pretty well.
Can you see
Is
that?
that Magic Booger?
yep.
Sugar. I don't know if
There's a Nails versus Giant Gonzalez match from New Japan.
Oh,
If you ever want to watch a really good match.
I
You see-
bet that's bad.
you're saying nails like you pound into wood, right?
Z, because he was cool.
Oh yeah, I've seen him. Okay.
His finisher was a headlock.
Was it?
Yeah, basically, yeah, just like a rear naked choke type. Yep.
A feud I really liked was the Boss Man versus the Mountie when they did that jailhouse match at SummerSlam.
I remember that.
When they had to bring him in and book him into jail. I'm the Mountie!
Don't you know who I am? I am the monkey.
They're trying to take his fingerprints and it's like,
Yep.
You want a finger? Here's a finger. And flicks him off.
Yep.
I remember the promotion just going up into that SummerSlam. I was so excited for it. I had like the WWE magazine that had all the matches listed out and everything. I mean, some of the card changed a little bit, but yeah, I couldn't wait for that or to see that one.
That was
I
one
don't
of those
think
shows we had taped and we watched it so many times.
Mm-hmm.
That is probably one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time, actually, because it just has so much nostalgic value growing up,
Have you guys ever sat through the wedding from Macho Man and Elizabeth on that show?
No.
I have never watched it.
How many times were Legion of Doom champions?
Once. Because they won it at that SummerSlam, right?
Yeah.
I
I
think
don't
that's
know.
the only time because
I don't know.
well,
Gosh.
at least in the early '90s there, because by WrestleMania 8, Hawk was having some real problems. That's kind of when they left for the first time, right?
Animal just died here not too long ago.
Yeah. They are 2-time WWF Tag Team Champions and 1-time NWA World Tag Team Champions.
Okay.
1-time AWA World Tag Team Champions.
Oh.
I think they're the only tag team to hold all three of those, right?
I don't know.
Well, definitely the first.
I think they are. Yeah.
Yeah, because you had to be in the right time period to do that.
Yep. And then no, it wasn't Summers. It was Survivor Series 90. I kind of talking about Legion of Doom. One of my favorite matches on that card, that was the first match, was Ultimate Warrior, Texas Tornado, and Legion of Doom against Mr. Perfect and all three members of Demolition. I thought that was awesome when they brought
that is, oh my gosh. Yeah. What a load of talent in that match.
Yeah. And then I think the SummerSlam the year before is when they had, 90, that's when they had the Hart Foundation against Demolition 2 out of 3 falls.
Mm-hmm.
But the Demolition kept trading out Axe for Smash and all that. So that was cool. I liked seeing all three of the Demolition together, but they didn't have that too long though.
The previous year is one of my favorite tag team matches ever with the Hart Foundation and the Brainbusters. Kicked off 1989 SummerSlam. I just watched that the other day. That is such a fun match.
Isn't that what happened to Owen Hart? He got a brain buster. Just question.
He got a Vince Russo. That's what he got.
Yes. Oh. Yeah. Did WCW ever do that with Sting after Owen got killed? Did they ever lower Sting down anymore? Okay.
The first time Sting went into the lowered into the arena, they realized seconds before he dropped down that they had the harness on wrong, and they literally told him just to walk off. And if they wouldn't have fixed it, he would have walked off and just fell.
Yeah, just that Owen Hart one. I think it was the Dark Side of the Ring or whatever for that one. They did a episode on him. It's just crazy the guy who they hired to rig him up, how terrible he did, and was sloppy with it. And you think if that's your profession, you wouldn't have done something so terrible and so half-assed. That's just what it seemed like it was.
Yep.
Yeah, that was 99, right?
Yeah, May 20th. I believe it was the 23rd, 1999.
Yeah, that was a sad day. I remember that in episode of Raw that night.
It's interesting. Jack's birthday.
I remember you telling me about it.
Well, yeah, you weren't watching wrestling anymore.
Nope, I was about 2 or 3 months checked out at that point.
Yep.
Billy was always one of my favorites. So.
Yep. Bob, have you told many of your backyard wrestling stories on the podcast yet?
I don't think I have. I mean, I don't have a lot, just dumb things I did. So.
But there are the few memorable moments, obviously.
You should mention them. This will be one of the most appropriate times.
No, I just had set on fire before we the plywood that we used did not break. And I bounced right off it. My buddy was spraying. It wouldn't light, so he kept spraying. I think it was bug spray or something on it to try and light it. And he slammed me on it, sprayed the back of my head, and whole back of my head goes up. Yeah, we didn't do anything too crazy. And we just had that one match in that ring. And that's about all we really did. So that was I'm 1-0 on my professional wrestling extravaganzas.
You didn't have a second match? I thought you guys had a follow-up match.
Mike did. I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah. I was there. I watched it, but I didn't participate.
I just saw that Brian Sager's still running wrestling.
Yep.
He's in charge of that Midwest All-Star Wrestling.
Okay.
In this area. Yep. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. He still seems to be good doing it. So.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Yep. So I am 1-0. Crazy ass Bob. That's my my wrestling name. And I am 1-0. I won by a senton bomb. Oh no, it was senton bomb to the outside through 2 tables, but then I put a trash can over my buddy's head and I drop kicked him off the top rope into the trash can and almost killed him. So I just recently found the tape for that. I'll have to dig that out sometime.
That drop kick spot is still one of the best spots I've ever seen. I mean, he launched from the middle of the ring and hit the ropes in the air, and the ropes pinned the trash can on him the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't believe you didn't kill him.
Yeah. Well, I don't even think I don't remember, because I remember after I think we didn't really think of a finish. So I just grabbed it.
You had to finish.
What was it?
You were going to do a Van Terminator.
Oh.
And you realize midway through the match, yeah, I'm not going to be able to jump across the entire ring.
Okay.
So you had to think up a finish on the fly, and that's what you came up with.
I don't know if I even told him. I think I just said, "Hey, just stand here." And then I just went and launched myself, and he had no idea it was coming. Oh, I kicked him hard.
You really did.
Oh yeah.
That was brutal.
Yep. So.
Did you
Yeah,
blade in that match?
Yeah, a little bit. I was scared to blade. I don't want to cut too deep, so I just had a little bit of blood.
Didn't you go to the back to do that, or did you do it right there?
I did it right there. After he hit me with the keyboard. Oh, yeah. I gave him the keyboard. He was supposed to hit me on the number side, but he hit me on the metal side. Oh, that hurt. Yeah, for a second, I'm like, oh, I won't even need the blade. I thought I had a chunk of skin hanging off my head, but no, I didn't. When it came to blade, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, so I just kind of grabbed it and okay, that didn't feel good, and then it bled a little. I'm like, it's probably good enough. I don't want to keep slicing at it and then end up needing to go to the hospital because I cut too deep or something.
You should have bleached your hair white like Ric Flair before the match.
Did he bleed in his last match he had?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that match. And Ric Flair's last match was so bad.
I heard, I didn't watch the whole thing. I heard little pieces of it, I think, but I never watched it.
Yeah, it was horrendous. I don't know what they thought, being like, oh, let's put Ric Flair in there for 29 minutes. At 73 years old.
After he just almost died from a massive like heart attack or something like that.
Yeah.
Nope, I'd never seen that, but I heard about. Well, I think it was I heard Jim Cornette talking about him, and he's just like sighing the entire time that he's talking about. Like just before every statement that he needs to make, he's like,
Well, Ric Flair had such a good send off when Michaels beat him at WrestleMania, and he retired. And he should have just stayed retired, but he came back how many times, and it's kind of ruined all that.
well,
Money is good.
Yeah.
Must have been.
Mm-hmm.
You'll do a lot of things when people throw a lot of money at you.
That's how I got Shawn Michaels to come over retirement, I guess. And,
Yeah.
Well, that worked. I haven't seen that. I didn't watch that match either.
Michaels was the best one in the match by far.
Then Triple H like tears Peck like 5 seconds into the match.
Yeah, so then again, Shawn Michaels, fresh off of coming out of retirement, had to wrestle the full 30-minute match by himself. I think he won, too.
Yeah, I think he did.
Yep.
Well, it's starting to get kind of dark out here.
Kind of?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll wrap up the 20th episode of the Four Roads Out of Warba. Thank you so much for joining us on this amazingly awesome retrospective look at the entire history of professional wrestling. You've caught everything you need to know. So we will be back joining you next week. I will be on location from Apache Junction, Arizona. And we will have another episode full of, I don't know, because we didn't talk about what's on the next episode yet, but you will find out. Oh, yes. Kobe, you want to go into that? Or Tippy?
Yep, I'll be hosting the next episode, and we are doing this one on video games, which I'm freaking shocked we haven't done yet. So,
I've been holding off on that one.
I mean, it's a very general subject, but I think we can make some fun out of this.
We could talk for hours and hours about video games.
Indeed. Yeah, that's right.
If you didn't think we were super cool enough after this episode, wait till next episode.
Then the one after that, Dudu's going to host on carpet cleaning.
No, no. I do not give out my shared trade secrets on cleaning the carpets,
Okay.
but I will have a step-by-step tutorial on how to properly clean a bowl.
Step
Wow.
1, lick it.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for joining us this week. So, for Bob,
Bye.
Tippy Tater Alligator, and Doodoo,
See ya.
I am Bort, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Indeed. Bad.